Yes, introducing the Strong Podcast. All about fitness, weightlifting, bartending.
Yeah, everything from natural body weight lifting, body weight training to actual strength training using weights.
So I use the wrong term, bartending.
Yeah. Well, bartending is popularized by giant in the bartenders, but you could just call it bar work or calisthenics at the end of the day.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But then, bodyweight training is just a whole, a bunch of different ways to get at it, but mainly for strength is calisthenics.
Okay. But we digress. Let us introduce ourselves. I'm the Great Z.
All right. This is Sun King.
Yes. I'm more into the weightlifting aspect of fitness.
Right. And my total discipline is bodyweight training. So anything involving bodyweight is what I'm about.
Okay, and once again, this is the Strong Podcast. All right. So what we're gonna tackle today?
Today, I felt like I wanted to talk about, as far as the disciplinary aspect of training, and things you want to consider while you get into training. Whether you're starting out for the first time or you're coming back from, getting off the wagon or whatever it is.
Right.
So, I know one thing we talked about, off the scenes was basically resolutions. And now we're into the second month of the year. And, it's interesting to see how many people might actually be following through with their resolutions, because we went into the gym and it's already nervous in there. Like, it's just people starting to taper off,
right?
And
well, what was funny was the other day, we're coming up, today is Valentine's Day,
right?
And for the whole of January, there was nobody in the gym. The gym was like it was scarcely any people in there. And then a week before Valentine's, it was packed.
Exactly.
So I'm like, wait,
exactly.
You expect to get to where you want to be in a week for Valentine's Day? It doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
You got to work out, at least 3, 4, 5 months prior to that to even have, to even look good naked.
Exactly.
Right?
It's not as instantaneous as, infomercials and stuff what have you believe.
Right.
You can put all the effort in that you want in that 1 week, but it doesn't just lead to, the turnover that you're looking for.
Right. You're not going to drop 20 pounds in a week.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, probably not in a month either.
Right.
Probably not.
So, the whole thing with the resolutions, you can't just say, I'm making a New Year's resolution to lose weight and then start January. You have to make that resolution in October.
Pretty much.
Then in January, you see the results, and then you're like, okay, I'm making progress, and then you keep going.
Exactly.
For the most part.
Well, like I always like to say is that, you can make a resolution anytime that you want. Anytime that you want. As soon as you identify that you're not happy with where you at, that's your resolution point right there.
Right.
Like right there. And then the follow through with that is coming up with a plan. Because the problem with a lot of us is that, we jump in, we have effort, intentions and stuff like that, and there's no concrete plan. So the second you don't see things, or you get distracted by life or whatever, then it's easy to fall off. But if you have a plan, like a measured way of doing things, then it's going to encourage you to keep going.
Right. So some ways that people can actually follow through with their resolution would be, what would you suggest?
Well, I'd say accountability is the first thing, right? So you have to figure out a system, a realistic system that's going to allow you to be held accountable. So you have more than one way of going about it. If you know that you have a hard time just going in and getting at it on your own.
Right, because people make a lot of excuses. I got the job, I'm working 2 shifts, I'm doing this, I can't get to eat when I want to eat, and I got kids.
Yeah. A million one. It's 24 hours in a day, as you know.
Right.
The cliche is that, you just need 1 hour out of those days.
1 hour, that's all you need.
That's it. And you could even break it apart. Like, it could be 20 minutes at one point, 20 minutes at another. You know, it has to tailor fit your schedule.
And it doesn't have to be anything where you actually have to go to a gym. It could be just something, changing your diet, cutting out certain foods, cutting out, maybe some sweets, cutting out the soda, cutting out bread, just to start you off and
Right.
It doesn't even have to be exercise.
Yeah, well, yeah, that'll definitely create a good canvas for you. I always like to say this: people already know for the most part where their shortcomings are. They already know where, there's certain foods that they're putting into them that they probably shouldn't. And then it opens up a conversation about other things that they probably not, might not be privy to as far as the knowledge of nutrition and stuff like that.
Right.
But, setting lofty goals, like huge goals that you want to achieve, like as he said,
like I want to look like Ronnie Coleman in 2 months. It's gonna discourage you.
Obviously, discourage you. Obviously, so I like to always talk about measured steps. So it's like if you eat pasta 5 days out the week, and it's probably not doing you any good. Then start crossing things off your list. Start making eliminations. Start, and get into like the common denominator of things. And then your body's gonna start opening up to these changes, and that in itself is encouraging. You start feeling more energetic, things like that.
A simple thing that I did, when I started going to the gym and wanted to lose like a little, chub off of my belly it was simply just to drink some lemon water in the morning. That literally was stripping away fat.
Exactly.
Like in 2 weeks, I could see a big difference in, just doing that.
Exactly.
And I didn't even change my diet too much.
Gotcha.
But just that alone was helping.
Yeah, the variables, once again. Yeah. So finding the right, and we're in the information age where, a lot of people have desk jobs and, they're playing Candy Crush or whatever. Right. And you could just really be doing a lot of research, a lot of, comparing and contrasting and figuring out what may or may not be working in your favor and start tweaking from there, So that goes back to what I was saying originally. It's the resources. We actually have more resources than ever in today's age. More than
access
ever.
to the knowledge of how to use those resources.
Period. There's, podcasts like ours where, once you keep subscribing, there's going to be a lot of things you may not have never heard before.
Right, a lot of information, definitely.
Exactly. And then, once again, you can just hop online and you will literally, even on your social medias, you will literally see so many sources of valid information. And then, if you're a skeptic, you can really just go back and forth with other people until you get to, to the right answer. And, it's not as linear as it's just one path for everybody. Obviously, one thing may work better for one person than another, but at least you can start researching. So resources, and now, that's free already. That's already free. Now,
that's a good point. Everybody doesn't have to do the same exact thing because everybody's body is not exactly the same. Some people may have a bit more weight. Some people are taller, some people are shorter, some people's lifestyle is totally different from,
Exactly.
So you just have to research this and see what you're comfortable with doing and, just see how that works for you. And if it doesn't work, you try something else.
Right, exactly. So, process of elimination, so to speak. But the point is you have to start doing that. You have to really start discerning and defining what is going to eventually work for you. And if you have a problem doing that, then once again you seek advice from actual professionals. So that's another thing when I talk about resources. A lot of people are quick to jump up and say they don't have a budget for, let's say, personal training, or nutritional advice, right? But then they'll have the budgets for, things that aren't that high on their priority list. And this is not a judgment call, but it's, I come across this pretty often. So the same person that's saying, I don't think I could swing that much money to hire a professional, probably bought a couple of drinks that Friday. Which came up to the same or more than what you could have allocated.
And is actually doing damage to your body.
Exactly. Right? So, I always say,
gotta get your priorities straight if you want to actually make that resolution that you're setting.
It's just like anything else. If you really make time and effort for it, it's gonna happen. People you can always say that I don't have time for this or for that person or for this thing, and if you really wanted to, you would make time.
Right. Just like you make time and spend money on everything else. Just redirect those monetary resources into your fitness.
Exactly.
So when you might have bought that outfit to go to the club, that might have been a delicious meal, or you would invest in a personal trainer, or
precisely.
Yeah,
precisely. And staying on the resource conversation, once again, if you search far and wide, there are actually very affordable options to get professional help. Very, very affordable options these days, because fitness has exploded. It's exploded.
Yeah.
And whether it's and it obviously it has to pertain to how you like to get instructions. So some people are great with classes, they could jump in an environment and be with other people and motivate each other. Some people are a little more self-conscious and need that one-on-one. So you got to be honest about that too.
Yes,
if you know you're gonna hop into a class and you're not comfortable being around other people, then chances are you won't stick with it.
Right.
If you find the right trainer that always follow through, show up on time, be there, give you the right guidance and directions, and it actually yields results, then that's the plan you want to stick with.
Right. And the thing about being uncomfortable around people, don't worry about it, because those same people started out at the same place that you were. So they understand. They may be at a point where their body is looking good, and then you look and compare and contrast, and I don't look as good as them, but they internally understand that you're just starting out, and you're eventually going to get to that point as well, where someone else is going to come into the class and you're going to be looking all nice and chiseled up or whatever, and they're going to feel the same way. So don't internalize it too much. Just focus on you getting fit, and everything will be all right.
Right. So the thing is, it's about making it personal. And when I say making it personal, not as far as from the self-conscious aspect, but when you make it personal, you're really competing with yourself, right? It's you at the end of the day.
Yes.
Everybody's going after something at the end of the day. So if you keep looking over your shoulder to see what somebody else is at, you're not really paying attention to what you're seeking out. Once again, we all have the same opportunity. You know what I mean? So it's about what you do and how much you progress in your own journey. So what you're trying to measure up is what you did today, what you intend to do tomorrow. Is it going to be better than yesterday? Is the day after that going to be better than the day, as the days go by? And after a while, that should only be, it'll be autopilot after a while. It's going to be, it's going to be a part of your regimen.
Right, it's going to be habitual.
Exactly. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, sometimes words evade. But and how long does it take to get into a habit? They say it's usually 21 days or something like that to get into a habit?
Into a different, into a habit. And that's the thing. We are creatures of habits. So if you really think about it, when you got out of shape or the state that you are, that was from habitual, habitual behavior. You worked hard to get to that point.
Yeah, you worked hard to be out of shape.
Period. Yeah, there was a lot of effort that you put into that. Like some people that are lazy, and I'm using that term loosely, it actually takes a lot of effort to be that lazy.
Right.
Like, you really could have just walked from this place to that place, but you found a creative way to circle the block. And find parking.
Or to get a cab 2 blocks when you could have just strolled it.
Precisely. So the effort just needs to be redirected, just like Z said. You just have to start learning how to redirect your energy.
Yes, definitely. So yes, don't worry about waiting until the end of the year to make a resolution. The day that you thought about it is the day that you should start going at the resolution. So if it's December the 1st, that's the day you should be making that resolution. If it's October the 22nd, that's the day you should be making that resolution. So the next day you should be doing something to get you closer to your goal of being fit and healthy and strong and having a good body.
Yeah. And, right? And it's when you start doing that, when you start measuring out your successes and stuff like that, once again, everyone has a different style. Everyone likes to use smartphones nowadays. I'm a little more old school. I like to pull out a book still and write it out. There's a lot more intention that goes with that, and it's nice to flip the pages and see, hey, I got through with this. Let me cross that off.
Yes.
And I write out a new plan and I cross that off. Or if you got space in your room, you could break out the the whiteboard or the old school blackboard,
Right.
it's really gratifying when you rub something out like it really is.
Definitely.
You know?
So, we're going to wrap up this podcast. I'm the Great Z.
This is Sun King.
Okay, definitely like and subscribe. You're going to see us on YouTube. You're going to hear us on SoundCloud. So, definitely stay tuned for more.
Yep.
This is the Strong Podcast.
The Strong Podcast.
Strong body, strong will, strong mind.
Period.
Over and out.
Peace.